This is Carrie Johnson with the Iowa Department of Management, and this is part 3 of a 6-part training series that talks about the property valuation system of Department of Management and how county auditors go about submitting property valuation data. In particular, this is going to talk about the 2019 valuation system. Like I said, this is part 3 of a 6-part series. It talks generally about the system and the types of data that you would submit and some general items about working in the system. Part 3 in particular is going to talk about the data that's submitted to Department of Management when you do an upload. What is that data involved? What are you sending in? Those types of details. So your local software system would create for you a .dat file that you're going to be uploading and submitting to the Department of Management. When you import that data, if you don't want to overwrite the district names that are in the state system, so you keep those names, make sure your system places an X for the taxing district name. So when you import your data, what exactly are you importing? So for each and every taxing district that you are importing data for, you will have a variety of different pieces of information. You would have the taxing district number, which is either a 5 or a 6 digit state number that starts with your county code and ends with 4 digits. Many folks are going to be importing only a 5-digit number. What our system will do then is submit a 0 between the county number, which is the first 2 digits, and the last 3 numbers of the taxing district number. But our system will take a 5 or 6-digit number. The tax district name, up to 100 characters, would be submitted, or an X if you're going to use the name as it is listed in the system. For each and every tax district, you're going to indicate whether it's a property type rural, R, or U, urban, city ag, yes or no, city exempt, yes or no, TIF, yes or no, and then if it's a TIF, then the TIF type, base or increment, or if TIF type was N, then obviously those TIF is also going to be N. For a TIF, you're going to be inputting the frozen base year, which is a 4-digit year, frozen base amount, which is a whole dollar, base district code, which is a 5 or 6-digit state taxing district number again, the receiving TIF type, so who is actually receiving the TIF dollars, who's the TIF authority, type, so I, O, J, or Z, depending on city, county, community college, or RIS. Receiving levy authority code, so who is the particular levy authority that's receiving the TIF dollars, so that would be listed there. And those are sort of the basics of each and every taxing district that you're going to be importing. For each and every tax district, you're also going to be importing the 100% and the taxable value by class. So again, if we walk through some of this information, you're going to be submitting the 100% and the taxable value for each and every class for each and every tax district. Negative numbers are not permitted. So the system will generate an error if you try to submit a negative number. 100% value is reported in the first column. All exemptions except military is deducted before that 100% valuation is reported. So if you have a particular program in your county or in one of the cities in your county that provides for, say, an industrial class exemption, that 100% value that you're reporting to us through the property valuation system is reflecting the value after the exemption has been taken off. Taxable valuation is the amount calculated after the application of the statutory assessment limitation, or rollback, as determined by the Department of Revenue. Valuations for gas and electric that pay a replacement tax aren't subject to an assessment limitation, but the IDR does certify both 100% value and taxable value for those properties for that class. So for 2019 valuations, so the fiscal 21 budget year, the following classes of property are subject to taxation at less than 100%. So this is the rollback for these classes for fiscal 21. Ag properties to be taxed at a percentage of 81.4832%. Residential is to be taxed at a percentage of 55.0743. Multi-residential properties to be taxed at a percentage of 71.25. And commercial, industrial, and railroad are to be taxed at a percentage of 90. One quick note here with the commercial and industrial rollback, new wind generation facilities approved for construction by the Iowa Utilities Board after 7/1 of 2018 are excluded from receiving that 90% industrial class rollback. So just a heads up, if you have some real new wind generation properties within your county that were approved for construction after 7/1 of 2018, they actually won't receive the 90% rollback. They'll be taxed at 100%. If you have any questions about that, please let me know. It's sort of a unique situation for most of those properties. They're probably not going to be on the tax rolls for this 2019 anyway, but just something to be aware of and have a heads up on for the future. So again, you're going to be reporting the property type, if it's rural or urban. If it's within a city, it's urban. Outside a city is rural, obviously. City ag, yes or no. If it is city ag, yes, that's those urban taxing districts that contain ag property. They're separated out because they're taxed at the 3.00375 rate. It's a particular rate limitation that's found in section 384.1 of the Code of Iowa. So any agricultural property found within the city limits is limited in rate. And so that's why we separate those out as a taxing district. City exempt, yes or no? A city exempt, yes, is an urban taxing district that contains value exempt from city taxation. That's used when a city agrees to a transition for the imposition of city taxes against property within an annexed area. So someone agrees to be annexed, but they are provided for, say, a few years of a certain portion of their value is exempt from having that city tax rate applied to it to save them a little bit of money as they transition into being part of the city. TIF type, yes or no. A Y here indicates that the taxing district is a base or an increment. TIF type, base, increment, or not applicable. So if the taxing district is flagged as a Y for TIF, then the TIF type is either base, B, or I increment. If the taxing district is flagged no for TIF, then the TIF type obviously is also no. Frozen base year is a 4-digit year. If you've created a TIF base district, but the frozen base year has not yet been established, you can enter 0000 for the frozen base year. But please remember to enter that frozen base year once it becomes established. So when you're working in the system, you'll see a warning when you do your errors check that you have certain taxing districts that still list 0000 for the frozen base year. Please double check those. And if you can't update that year, then go ahead and do that. Frozen base amount for TIF type B, those base TIF taxing districts, you want to make sure that the 100% frozen base year valuation assigned to the district is reported. Do not increase the amount for this frozen information field in those budget years when unneeded increment is diverted to the base. Base district code. So for your increment districts, they are assigned to a base district. They come in pairs, right? So it is very important that the associated base taxing district is correct, so that you have that correct associated TIF base and increment pair. Never associate a base taxing district with more than one increment taxing district or vice versa. Receiving TIF type. So for our increment districts, I is used for city urban renewal, O is used for county urban renewal, J is community college jobs training, and Z is for 357H rural improvement zone authorities. So that's just, what type of entity is the TIF authority is what we're saying here. And receiving levy authority code. So again, for those increment districts, this is the official levy authority code for the TIF authority that's receiving the property taxes. So who's actually getting those property tax dollars? If it's a city urban renewal, then is it the city of Des Moines, for instance? Residential property, note that dwellings located on ag realty must be classified as residential and listed on line 1. Residential rollbacks applied to those dwellings. And residences on ag land within a city must also be listed on line 1 of a regular taxing district. So just sort of keep in mind, this is one of those common errors that occur. If a residence, it might be a residence that's located on otherwise agricultural property. The residence itself is residential value and needs to be reported in a way so that the dwelling can have the residential rollback applied to it. Ag land and buildings, the only classifications that should appear for ag land within a city are agricultural land and buildings other than residences. So again, it's just sort of that distinction. Ag land taxing districts, city ag districts should not have anything in them other than ag land and buildings. If there's a residence, it is not in itself, that dwelling is not considered ag value and needs to be reported in a regular taxing district as regular residential value. Commercial and industrial property. The only caveat that I mentioned there is the one I shared with you earlier, and there is the code citation there, House File 2502, that passed in that 2018 legislative session that amended Code of Iowa 441.215 for that wind conversion property that's coming into play. Multi-residential property, that's pretty much self-explanatory. Property that's classed as multi-res would be reported on that particular line. Reserved is just reserved for future property class additions. Railroad properties are separately reported on line 8. Subtract the taxable value of bankrupt railroads or railroads in bankruptcy proceedings from the taxable value column. However, you'd include them on the 100% value column. Utilities without gas and electric. That's the value for those utilities subject to local property taxes as certified by Department of Revenue. It's like telecommunications and things of that nature, but do not include gas and electric value here, and don't include railroads. This is a different type of value. Other, those are sort of don't fit any other classifications. Things like mineral rights, certain interstate railroad bridges and toll bridges. That's what we find most likely reported in other. And most counties don't have very much value reported there, if any. Gross value, that's just for both 100% taxable. This is a sum of lines 1 through 10. Military exemption. If a military service tax exemption on ag land within a city is partially used in a regular levy taxing district, the balance must be deducted from the city ag low levy taxing district. Negative numbers are not permitted, and you include both your military exemptions on line 12 in taxable and in 100% columns. So total net value is just the gross value less the military exemptions, right? And then gas and electric is reported next. That's a gas and electric value as certified by Department of Revenue. Only gas and electric, which is not subject to property taxation, should be entered here. For 2 particular counties that have a water value, you do need to include those with your gas and electric value, and those 2 counties are aware of that particular. The assessed value should be placed in the 100% column, and the taxable value is placed in the taxable. Again, the property is not subject to rollback adjustments, but both assessed and taxable values are reported to you by Department of Revenue, and it is possible for the taxable values to be higher than the 100%, just because of the particulars of the gas and electric system. Open spaces land, that's any value of land acquired by the State Department of Resources under the Open Spaces program. Number of homestead credit claims, and that's just simply the number of homestead credits that are in a particular taxing district. If a homestead credit is used partially in a city regular taxing district and partially in a city ag taxing district, report it only in the city regular taxing district. So that way you're not reporting one actual credit twice. You're just reporting, the receipt of a credit once. And again, negative numbers are not permitted. So that's sort of an overview of what data you're actually submitting when you submit that data file. As far as actually importing it, on the left-hand navigation, you'd go down to Import DAT file. Your county would be populated for you, obviously, and then DAT file, you do choose File, and it will allow you then to browse to locate your DAT file. So, you go and you find that DAT file from your software, wherever you have it located on your local system, your desktop or what have you. So you find that file and click on it, and it'll kick you back to this screen. So it shows the path for the file that you're uploading, and you select Upload. And then basically it's going to give you the information that, the file validated successfully and you can confirm. So if you've got the green check mark, good news, there's nothing listed here. That means there's no taxing districts that seem to have a problem. You can confirm, and the data is updated successfully. So it's pulled in that data into the system for you. Some common errors during the upload. Some things that I see when I work with folks as far as errors that they run into. They have a situation where have a taxing district on their local system and they switched it in their local software from rural to urban or vice versa. Or a taxing district was switched in their software from a from TIF base label to a TIF increment label or vice versa. Or another big one is a taxing district was created or deleted on their local software, but the same change was not made on the property valuation system prior to uploading. So you need to make sure that any taxing district that you're uploading into the system is also in the system already. So if there's something new you created on your local software, you're also going to have to create it in the property valuation system so they match. So just to kind of show you what types of errors you might see, this is one example. Instead of getting that green check mark, it'd say, okay, total errors, and it's telling you it's missing. So the following taxing district, 1 in this case, has not been set up in the application. So you've got to do this for all taxing districts before importing data. So it's telling you, okay, this taxing district here is not set up in the state system. You need to set it up in the state system before you import that file. So it'll show you exactly what that taxing district is. Another situation, this is saying it's a mismatch. You've got 4 errors. You've got 2 that are mismatched. You have 2 taxing districts that include changes to the property type or TIF type, etc., that aren't allowed. So these 2 taxing districts have changes to their property type, and we can't do that. It's not going to allow you to do that. So that's an example. Another situation, this is 2 taxing districts that include changes to city ag land. So say these particular taxing districts in the current year are not considered city ag, but for whatever reason, now they're agricultural value, and we want to say that they're city ag. You can't just switch the taxing district type. You actually have to create new taxing districts with that designation. So it's telling you can't make those changes, and it's going to give you an error. So those are just some of the common errors that you might see during a data upload. Please feel free as you're uploading your data, if you have a situation where you're getting an error and you're not sure how to read the error or what it might mean, please feel free to contact me and we'll walk through that process of getting it corrected. Thank you.